Regulation run amok. One truck driver says the federal government is literally telling him when he has to work, eat, and sleep. Matthew Garnett, writing in The Federalist, quote, "I never thought I'd come to a time in my life when Big Brother would be watching me 24/7, but then I became a truck driver. Every minute of every day is monitored by Uncle Sam, who takes care that I can never make a decision for myself based on circumstances." Here to tell us more about the regulations he faces every day is truck driver Matthew Garnett. He is also the host of the podcast In Layman's Terms. Matthew, good morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
It's great to have you. You know, when politicians go on television and say, we really need to reduce the number of regulations, you know firsthand, because the trucking industry is, in your estimation, so completely overregulated. For instance, I have one watch. Right now it's 7:25. How many different clocks do you have in your life?
Well, I have that one plus 4 more. So, I mean, if you recall Orwell's 1984, they had the screens where, you know, Big Brother is watching you. I have a version of that in my truck. And so when I start working for the day, 2 of those clocks start in addition to the one you're fighting. And then when I start driving, another 2 start. So that's what's going on. And, you know, when you guys are in a rush to try to get the work on time and that sort of thing, that's kind of how a truck driver feels all the time.
Okay, so at what point, Matthew, does, according to the federal government, your clock run out for the day where you've got to pull over, even though for one reason or another you might have only been driving for a couple hours?
Well, let's say, for instance, I mean, this would never happen, but let's say, for instance, I got stuck at a shipper for 10 hours,
right,
for some reason,
okay,
you know, at a dock. Well, literally, I would only have 4 hours left to drive. Now, I'm not going to try to take you through all the hours of service regulations. There's parts about it I still don't understand.
Right.
But those running clocks reduce the amount of time that you're allowed to be on the road. Once those clocks run out, you have to stop driving.
Sure. And I understand there are also regulations on off-duty time. So if you're not on duty, let's say this weekend, it's your off-duty time. And you can't mow the yard, you can't take out the garbage, you can't do stuff like that in your off-duty time, according to Uncle Sam?
Well, if a state trooper really wanted to throw the book at you, you know, they could ask you about that sort of thing. There are nightmarish things that happen like that. So, for instance, one of my colleagues one time sent an email to his dispatcher when he was on off-duty time. That's a violation. He got fined for that.
Unbelievable.
So if it was discovered, that I was working on off-duty time, it just depends on who you run into out there.
Yeah.
That it can happen. That's the regulations.
Ultimately, one of the reasons you're sounding this clarion call is because you say a lot of these regulations are making us less safe. How so?
Right. Well, so for instance, you know, you're fighting the clock. You're already 5 minutes late to work, and you got another 5 miles to go.
Yep.
That we feel that way all the time. We always feel like we're in a rush because of these clocks. I mean, that's just human nature. That's the instinct that kicks in when you're fighting clocks. And then on top of that, while you're fighting the clock, sometimes you're fighting fatigue because that little computer there literally is telling you when it's time to sleep. When that thing runs out, it's time to sleep. Yeah. When you have more time, it's time to drive. And so you're put in situations that just literally force you to do that.
Well, Matthew, right now our clock says 7:28. Thank you very much for stopping by from Baltimore to tell us about how regulations, so many of them, are strangling your business. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve.